welcome to It Is My Life show with Felicity. My name is Felicity. Today's topic is online dating and domestic violence. And to talk about this today, my guest is from a counseling background. She left an abusive and unhealthy relationship over 2 years ago with her 2 children. She now works in the city as a PA, and she focuses her energy and her time on empowering herself and other women through the workshop that she does. Please welcome Sabiya Khan.
Hiya.
So Sabiya, tell me, you met your partner through online dating. How long did you date online and offline before you actually moved in together with your partner?
To be honest, it wasn't very long at all, which is probably the mistake a lot of people make, including myself. Is in real life, offline, online, however you want to date, you've got to properly know the people you're dating, and I didn't. I was coming from a very desperate kind of background where I wanted someone to love me. So I went online looking for love, not quite sure where it was going to take me, and the first person that came along I took, without really trying to explore them, get to know them, because the way I saw it was I was very small, but everyone was above me. They were kind of all on a pedestal. So everyone that came into my life, regardless of who they were, I put them on a pedestal because I thought I didn't deserve anything better. So when we were online dating, it wasn't very long till we moved it to the real world, but I just accepted everything that he did, and there were plenty of warning signs. There were plenty of times where I thought, oh, I don't feel very safe here, but it was familiar because I kind of grew up that way, being scared. So it wasn't any different. To me, the scary option was the unknown, whereas this I could handle in my head. So it was like, okay, let's just see how it goes. And then I got pregnant very, very quickly. I'm a bit too ashamed to say how very quickly, in fact. I got pregnant, and then I had my son, and then to me that was it, that was life. And then when you bring a child into a bad relationship, there were moments of goodness, I'm not saying there wasn't. There's only one way to go. It'll only get worse because you don't really know who you are, and you're being treated like rubbish, so it just got worse basically.
You mentioned there were warning signs. What are these warning signs that you saw, that you ignored, and how long and what kind of abuse did you experience?
Okay, so number one warning sign, when someone tells you they've got a criminal record for hitting their ex-partner, that should have alarm bells going off. So that's the big one. And then it was just control, little things, do this, do that. When someone's going through personal trauma, his mother had just passed, you shouldn't get involved with someone because they're healing anyway. And some people act out and they're not quite sure that they're doing it. So in a way, you kind of you give them credit to be able to do what they're doing, basically, even though that's not appropriate behaviour on how to treat someone. So it was very controlling, abusive behaviour from the beginning. And I know some people get really weirded out when you say control is abuse, but it is, because you're doing it against your will. It's not nice to treat people that way. And then it escalated. It became financial abuse, where I was the sole provider and he didn't do anything. And then it became emotional abuse, where I was made to feel bad about trying to be independent and live my own life, wanting to work more, having another child, and then to be made feel bad about it was horrible. That's emotional. And then it became quite sexual abuse. It was not very pleasant to be forced to do things you don't want to do and then made feel bad about it as well, and be called such horrible names as a kind of a punishment. It was just, it's not very pleasant to be treated that way. So yeah, that's what I experienced.
So how soon, when you got living together, did the abuse start?
Pretty soonish. It was gradual. It was like a dripping thing. It got progressively worse in the last 2 years, and I think that was more reflective of his own personal kind of trauma he was going through. Like, he wasn't working, he wasn't being significant, and sometimes people act out and they want to punish you because you're doing better in your life. And I think, if I look from his perspective, I think that's what he was trying to do. Also, I had a lot of childhood trauma that I hadn't dealt with, and he was trying to help me with it, but you can't force someone to deal with things like that, and his way was to basically punish me with it. So it did some pretty horrible things, like mind games and things like that. Just not nice, not the way you should be treated.
So you mentioned you had some abuse as a child from childhood. You experienced that, or you grew up in that environment. So what kind of abuse did you experience as a child, as a young person?
So as a child, I grew up in a very strict religious family, and there was a cultural clash when they came over to Britain. My mum was pretty much raised her anyway, but she brought along with her very backwards thinking, and it's actually very present in the country right now. And it's just, you can't grow from there. It was very traumatic for me growing up and feeling very conflicted, like I couldn't be who I wanted to be, and being told I was constantly a bad child, that I was actually evil. I used to be called a slut and things like that by my mother, even though I didn't do anything. She just kind of got a vibe from me. She'd always say, she was very violent towards us. My father wasn't around much, but he was still part of the family. But it was mainly the religious abuse. It was just kind of, I wouldn't want it on anyone. And I grew up feeling very scared, and there was a bit of sexual abuse when I was younger as well, from someone in the family. And what happened was, you grow up in that environment, you genuinely don't know any different, but you want to believe that there's something better. And all I ever wanted when I was a little girl was to run away from home, and I did it when I was 18. And when I left, I didn't learn anything about life. I wasn't equipped with enough information, education, and not enough confidence. So I went out in the real world, and I very naively thought someone was going to save me. And it took me a very long time to realise no one's going to care about someone who doesn't care about themselves. So I had to go through a lot of bad things, and there were moments of really nice happiness with many people in my life, but I chose the wrong people for me. And now in hindsight, I chose them because I thought, right, they've come in, I must prove how fabulous I am to them. But they weren't proving that they needed to be there. So I just accepted them and just put them in that place. And then when I left, you find out who your real friends are, who cares about you, and it turns out there weren't many people who did, because I gave nobody anything to care about. I was just this young girl who smiled all the time, did loads of things for people, and got nothing in return. And that's what happened.
So how long did you live together with this man, and did you have any children with him?
Far too long. It was almost 7 years, and I'd had 2 children with him. So the first one came along very quickly, so within a year we were living together and we had a baby. And the second one came along as a kind of, maybe my life would get better if I had another child, but it makes it so much worse. And you feel more trapped, because it's, if I leave, I'm breaking up a family. So I had 2 children, and my son's now 8 and my daughter's now 5.
So what was it that made you say, you know what, enough is enough, I have to leave now?
In the last few months of our relationship, it just got progressively worse, to the point where I thought I was going mad.
The thing is, there was no physical abuse, it's more so mental, isn't it? Mental
it was
and
all
emotional.
the mind games. It was just, I thought I was going mad, and he didn't do anything to make me feel safe. He played on it. He would make me feel like I was going insane. And he loved it. He loved having someone to look after, and, you know, you're not well, are you?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, really patronising. But when you're, like, mental health, everyone, let's just put it out there, there's a stigma around it, and there isn't anything to be ashamed about. We all have mental health. Some people are pushed to certain limits, and I was pushed to the real bottom of it. And when I left home originally when I was 18, I lived on the streets for a little bit, and I made a mistake, and as a result, when you make certain mistakes, because you're...
And you've told him about it?
Yeah, I told him. And he uses it against you, and you sit there and you're having this inner monologue going on in your head, basically just, am I going crazy? Is this really happening to me? And he's smiling in your face and saying nothing's happened. And I actually remember saying to him, do you want to hit me? Can you hit me, please? And he laughed and said, why would I hit you? I love you. That's love.
Oh God, he just loves that. Jesus, the mind games is like, well, it's like a plan. It's like you just went somewhere, like wrote a script.
He scripted it all out. He had them on the computer. I found them the day I left. I was in some sort of play.
This is like a play.
It was a play. It's a game for him.
What was the ending?
I left.
It wasn't how he planned it.
No, ripped up script.
Did that traumatize him?
Yeah, because I found the scripts and I showed his family actually. It was really funny because when you're in that position, you're trying to convince everyone that something bad has happened because the other person's saying, no, she's just gone off mad and she's one of those women that have taken the kids for no reason. And I was like, no, I was legitimately afraid. Here's my evidence.
What did they say?
So it was just basically things he used to say to me, really horrible.
His family, what did they say?
What did his family say? Half of them took my side, the other half decided not to.
You see, I'm still in disbelief.
But the thing about families is they're supposed to care about him, and one day they will eventually forgive him if they have not done already. And it's not my place to go around proving to people that I'm not insane or that I fled because I was scared. People are going to think whatever they're going to think regardless of what you say.
Right. So now you told them the script. You changed the script.
Yes, I changed it.
You changed the script to what you wanted it to be by leaving.
Yes.
So when you left, where did you go?
I approached a charity called Hestia. I believe you know them quite well.
Yes.
And they put me in a refuge for 18 months. And they were very good because the refuge stay is only 6 months, but they extended it because I guess they saw something in me that they thought I could fight this. And in the 18 months, I lived in a beautiful area in West London and I used it to my advantage. So I went and explored life, London, myself. And I healed, and it was very painful because I was alone. The refuge accommodation isn't great. It's a tiny room. You live with loads of strangers, all kinds of people from different kinds of life, different kind of levels of standard and living, and other people's children who have got behavioural problems, and obviously have experienced different levels of domestic violence. So you're trying to keep yourself sane and keep your 2 children sane, and we're all in one tiny room whilst he's staying in a flat that he wouldn't vacate. So it took me a while to get out of the refuge. But I won my flat back, which was nice. The judge gave it to us. It wasn't a domestic violence hearing, I should say. That wasn't why we were going for the flat. It was because the children deserved a home and it wasn't fair that they were stuck in a tiny room with their mother. And it wasn't fair that we left in the first place because I asked him to leave and he wouldn't.
So where are you now in your life and what is life like? Since you've left him and you've left the refuge, you're back home now and you're working. What is life like?
Life is, she's going to sound a bit corny, really beautiful. It's just peaceful. I learned a lot about myself in the refuge, about silence, stillness, being reflective of myself, being able to tell people how I feel, which incidentally a lot of people don't like to hear about feelings, and they're not now in my life now because of it. I learned the importance of having boundaries and being assertive, and that not everyone's supposed to be in your life, and that's okay. I like me, and I never liked me before. I'd even dare to say I love me. And if I don't get the right vibe from someone, I won't even tolerate them a little bit. I'm quite intuitive with people, and I think that would only have come having spent time in the refuge because there was nothing else to do there. It was just when the lights are out, the kids are asleep, you've got to just kind of work on yourself. Well, I chose to anyway. And it was for the better because there's no drama going on in my head. Whereas before, when you're in that situation, you're rehashing everything. It's going over and over. And on some sort of maybe unconscious level. Some people look for drama afterwards. They're addicted to so much bad stuff happening. They go out and do it again. And they don't break that habit. And I got the opportunity to break that habit. So there's nothing dramatic going on in my life. There's lots of wonderful things. And one of the biggest things I've learned is privacy, she says on camera. That's about the past, so it's fine. Where the future, I'm very private with people. I don't tell them what's going on. I'm a firm believer if you want to know, you should pick up the phone, not go on Facebook and things like that. I'm kind of very old-fashioned and I never realised it. But that's how I live my life, and I like small, intimate groups of people, and that's how I want to stay.
You mentioned you're a very private person, although I'm glad that you've shared your story, but aren't you ashamed of telling this story? Or don't you have any concern what people might say about you telling the story?
I have chased people all my life to kind of pay attention to me and look at me and notice me. The wrong way, the right way, however, it makes no difference. If that person doesn't accept why I'm saying what I'm saying, then they're not the right person for me. The reason I'm not ashamed is because it helps me kind of deal with it. I feel that I went through it to learn something, and it doesn't make it any more painful or less painful than someone who's gone through less pain, as in circumstantial pain. So they might have had a less experience than me, but the pain might be equal to mine. If mine helps someone else, then that helps me. I spoke recently in public about this, did some speeches, and a few people afterwards said, don't you want to move away from it? I have though. It doesn't make me cry, it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't bother me.
May I ask you, do you love yourself now?
Yeah.
Do you love yourself?
I do.
You love yourself? Fantastic.
Why wouldn't I?
Oh, you have to. You seem quite happy. You laugh a lot, and I like your energy. I like that. I like seeing women who've been through this traumatic experience come alive again, and I think it helps you become a different person. It helps you become more of a better person, really. So you know, because there's a saying, if you haven't experienced a bad relationship, how do you know what a good one's like?
Yeah, it's true.
You understand? So we understand a lot more better than people who have not experienced a abusive relationship. So when you're in a happy place, you enjoy it.
Yeah, but the most important relationship you're going to have in life is with yourself.
True. Now, I know you've spoken in Parliament about your story and the workshop you do to help women who've been through abuse as well. So tell me a little bit more about that speech you made in Parliament and the workshop that you do.
So I spoke in Parliament, which was brilliant. It was just basically retelling my story and what I'd learned, like I've been saying today, and about the workshops and that how important it is to educate people who haven't been privileged enough to have this information. The two things I learnt about whilst I was in the refuge is politics and relationships, and you're not taught about that in state schools. So how will we know the information? You've also got a big cultural influx of people coming in, shall we say, to the country that are going to find it really difficult to blend in with Western ways, and that will cause a lot of conflict in their home life and in the work life. And I think they need to bring it in some sort of curriculum where you can teach people about respect, about themselves, assertiveness, boundaries, love. These things are really important. These are things that are what make us us, not the external attachments like your work, your job and things like that. You need to be able to function in society as a normal person, and then you get the right people and you will love yourself. And that to me is the most important lesson I can pass on to someone.
So Sabi, how can people find you to actually experience your workshop?
Actually, I run a blog online on Facebook actually called Dating Severe. So if people wanted to come in contact with me, they can. The blog is just basically go out and date yourself and rediscover yourself, do some really lovely fancy things all for yourself, and they can contact me on there if they want to help empower, if they want me to help empower them.
Well, Sabia, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your wonderful, inspiring story.
You're welcome.
And I wish you good luck with the work you do, and empowering other women and yourself. I'm so happy you're in a much happier, better place. Thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
And now it's time for Felicity Recommends. Based on what I've just heard from my guests, I'm going to recommend that if you're going to be engaging in online dating, you have to be extra vigilant. Because even offline, people conceal their true nature, let alone offline, where some people actually begin by lying from their profile, their photo they put up there, and description of who they are and what they do. So you have to be extra vigilant. I've known of a relationship formed online that they're married and they're happy. That's fine, but I think it's quite rare. Be extra vigilant. Next, also I'd like to recommend that ladies especially, you need to learn the warning signs of abuse. If your partner tells you that they've had criminal records for hitting somebody else, you are going to be different. Do not think it won't happen to you. Yes, it will happen to you, probably worse. So you need to, once you hear that, red alert, it means run. It means bye-bye. You have to say that safely, so that you stay safe away from the person. And also, what I like to recommend for you to do as well is to set rules and boundaries. You must set rules and boundaries so that you know what you tolerate, what you not tolerate. You're not there to please anybody. You're going to relationship complete. You have to bring in 100% of you, and they have to bring 100% of them. You don't want to go in empty. So when you go in whole, then you complete one another, because you have nothing to, you not go there empty wanting. So remember these 3 things I've just mentioned. Be vigilant while dating online and offline as well. Set rules and boundaries, and learn the warning signs of abuse. So to contact us, you can get to our website www.itismylifeshow.com. We are on Twitter and Facebook as seen displayed on the screen here, and also on our YouTube channel. Remember to SLS. What does that mean? It means to subscribe, to like, and to share our channel, so that you can actually be part of this show to help empower and transform lives. So until next time, on It Is My Life Show with Felicity, live with love.